Have you ever felt like the people around you are more distant, but you're not quite sure why? Could it be that, without realizing it, you're repeating habits that irritate those who live with you, but no one has the courage to bring them up? This is more common than it seems, and often, small gestures create silent resentment. In this video, we're going to talk with care and respect about behaviors that push people away. And even better, how to change them without losing who you are. If you want more peace at home, fewer arguments, and stronger bonds with your loved ones, watch until the end. Comment below. I want more peace in my relationships if that matters to you too. Leave a like if this content resonates with you. And subscribe to the channel. There's a lot of great stuff coming that can transform your relationships and your self-esteem. 1. Constant complaining. Have you noticed how, over the years, we start to complain about everything without meaning to? It's too hot. The cold is annoying, the food has no flavor, TV is full of nonsense. Don't even get started on politics. At first, it seems like just a conversation. But over time, this habit turns into constant noise, and those around you start to go quiet, to pull away. Not out of malice, but from exhaustion. Constant complaining drains the lightness from the environment. Negative words fill the air, weighing down even the smallest parts of everyday life. And sometimes the person listening doesn't even know how to respond. They just sit there, silently holding on to the discomfort. That doesn't mean you shouldn't express how you feel. On the contrary, speaking up is important. The problem is the repetition, the tone, and the lack of pauses to notice what's going well too. A simple suggestion. Try once a day replacing a complaint with a word of gratitude. Instead of saying, "This food is so bland," try, "I'm grateful someone made this for me." Instead of, "This neighborhood is way too dangerous," say, "I'm glad I have a home to return to." It might seem small, but it changes everything. And the most beautiful part? This shift begins quietly, and suddenly you'll notice people feeling lighter around you. They listen more, smile more, and start reaching out to you with more affection. Next up, let's talk about something that seems harmless, but also wears down relationships over time. Telling the same stories over and over again. 2. Repeating yourself too much. Sometimes we don't even notice, but suddenly we realize we've told the same story for the third time in the same week. Or made the same comment, using the exact same words to the same people. This is more common than you might think, and it's not a sign of weakness or a mental issue. Often, it's just a reflection of our need to be heard, to keep something alive within us. But for those who live with this day in and day out, constant repetition can create a kind of invisible strain. The listener starts to disconnect. Not out of rudeness, but because they already know every single word of what's coming. They listen out of politeness, but the connection is no longer there. And slowly, this creates emotional distance. Conversations turn into monologues, and the bond quietly fades. A simple and powerful alternative is active listening. Instead of retelling the same old memory for the third time, how about asking something new to the person you're with? How was your day? What have you been watching? Can you teach me something you've learned? Showing interest in the other person opens up space for you to be heard with more attention and care too. You'll still get to tell your stories, but now it's part of a living mutual exchange, and that makes all the difference. Next, we'll get into a habit that may look like being real, but when overdone, builds walls instead of bridges. Criticizing everything and everyone. Criticizing everything and everyone. After a while, many people start to believe they have the right to say whatever they think, anytime, about anything, to anyone. I'm just being honest. I say it to their face. But too much honesty, when it turns into constant criticism, doesn't bring people closer. It pushes them away. Criticizing everything and everyone, from your granddaughter's outfit to your son-in-law's driving, from the TV show to the neighbor's haircut, makes being around you tense and uncomfortable. People begin to weigh their words around you, and over time, that creates silence. But it's not the silence of peace, it's the silence of defense. The problem isn't having opinions, and it's not about wanting to give guidance either. The issue lies in the tone and the frequency. When everything becomes a reason for judgment, the home loses its sense of ease, and affection starts to tiptoe around, afraid of getting hurt. So what can you do? Try swapping criticism for curiosity. Instead of saying, "That's the wrong way," try asking, "Why do you do it like that?" Instead of, "That looks ridiculous," try, "Do you like that style?" Sometimes a simple question opens up a whole new level of understanding. And more than that, try giving a compliment now and then. Not everything needs to be corrected. Sometimes a small gesture of approval can brighten someone's entire day. Criticizing less doesn't mean staying silent. It means choosing your words with more wisdom. And those who do that become a lighter, more beloved presence. In the next chapter, we'll touch on a sensitive topic, the habit of talking only about illnesses, aches, and doctor visits. That also takes a toll, and a big one. 4. Only talking about illness and pain. Health is, of course, an important part of life, especially as we get older. But when it becomes the only topic, day after day, the relationship starts to feel heavy. It's natural to want to vent, to talk about high blood pressure, knee pain, the long wait for an appointment. The problem is when that becomes the center of every conversation. Those around you, especially children and grandchildren, often don't know how to respond. They listen out of respect, but inside they feel powerless, sad, or even guilty for not being able to help. And over time they may begin to avoid long conversations or visits so they don't leave feeling drained. This doesn't mean you should hide how you feel, but finding balance is important. Talk about your health, yes, but talk about other things too. Ask about other people's lives. Share good memories. Mention something you saw, something you read, something you learned. A simple tip: before mentioning a pain, say something light. Even a compliment or a cheerful good morning makes a difference. It changes the mood of the conversation, and little by little, the exchanges become more vibrant, more meaningful. Because you are not just your pain, you are your story, your warmth, your presence. In the next chapter, we'll talk about something very common, yet it quietly builds barriers. Comparing everything to the past. Back in my day, things were better, but were they really? 5. Constantly making comparisons. After so many years of life, it's natural to have a reference point in time. And yes, a lot of things from the past really were special, but when phrases like, "back in my day it was better," "these days nobody's any good," or "things used to be different," come up too often, the conversation stops being a sharing of experiences and starts sounding like judgment. To the listener, especially younger people, these comparisons feel like veiled criticism. They get the sense that their choices are inferior, that everything they experience is seen as wrong or worthless, and little by little they stop sharing. They keep things to themselves and they drift away. But here's the thing: sharing stories from the past can be beautiful when done with lightness. Instead of saying things were so much better back then, try, "Did you know we used to do things differently in my time? Can I tell you about it?" That small change in tone opens up space for connection instead of confrontation. And even better, ask about their time too. Show curiosity. How does that work nowadays? Show me how that new app works. What kind of music do you like? Trading comparisons for dialogue brings generations closer together. And it shows that you're not stuck in the past, you're present. 6. Ignoring other people's boundaries. After a certain age, many people feel that life experience gives them the right to comment on everything. But what feels like care isn't always received as kindness. Giving too many opinions, touching without asking, jumping into sensitive topics uninvited, all of this can come off as invasive. Even if the intention is good, crossing someone's boundaries wears them down. The person might not say anything, out of respect, but inside they shut down, and over time they start avoiding deeper conversations. They slowly pull away. It's important to remember that everyone has their own way, their own pace, their own pain, and their own silence. And respecting that is one of the most meaningful ways to show love. Before offering advice, ask, "Would you like to hear my opinion?" Before bringing up something personal, ask, "Can I ask you something a little more personal?" Asking permission shows respect, and when someone feels respected, they open up more easily. Another important point: learn to accept no. Even the people who love you may not feel like talking at that moment, or may not be willing to change just because you think it's better. And that's okay. Real love also knows how to wait. In the next chapter, we'll talk about something very common in old age, but with deep emotional impact: unintentionally taking on the role of the victim in everything. 7. Always playing the victim. We all go through losses, pain, and frustrations, especially as the years go by. But when the victim mindset becomes constant, it creates an invisible weight in the environment. Phrases like, nobody cares about me, you've all abandoned me, I'm always the last to know end up causing guilt in those who hear them, even if that's not your intention. And over time, what was a cry for attention becomes an even deeper sense of distance. The issue isn't expressing sadness or loneliness, it's about constantly taking on the role of the one who always suffers, who's never heard, who's never appreciated, even when that's not true. People close to you, after hearing this over and over, start feeling frustrated. They try to help, they make efforts, and still hear that they do nothing. This kind of message weakens bonds and causes silent hurt. A powerful shift begins when you replace the focus on pain with small actions to reconnect. Instead of saying, "Nobody cares about me," try, "Today I felt like talking. Can I give you a call?" Instead of saying, "You never invite me," try, "If something fun is happening, invite me. I'd love to join." Taking small steps gives you back the power to connect, and it shows the people around you that you're not looking for pity, you're looking for presence. And that changes everything. In the next chapter, we'll talk about a common habit, often learned over a lifetime, imposing old rules and rigid routines, even when they no longer make sense. 8. Imposing old routines or rules over time, we develop our own ways of doing things, schedules, habits, quirks. These bring comfort and a sense of security, but what works for you may not work for others, especially when different generations live together. Imposing rigid routines, rules that worked in your day, or insisting that everything be done your way can turn the home into a place of tension. Phrases like, "It's always been this way," or "My house, my rules," can lead to resistance, hurt feelings, and even distance. The world changes. People change. And showing flexibility is one of the most beautiful signs of wisdom. This doesn't mean giving up on everything you believe in. It means knowing when to listen, to compromise, to find middle ground. For example, instead of demanding that everyone sit down for dinner at the same time, try suggesting, "I'd love it if we had dinner together tonight. What do you think?" Inviting instead of commanding opens doors. Respecting others' pace strengthens relationships. And even more, adapting to change shows that you're alive, present, not stuck in a past that's already gone. Living together doesn't have to be a battle of wills. It can be a space for exchange, ease, and acceptance. Talking too loud or interrupting too much. In some families, speaking loudly has always been a sign of presence. Many people grew up this way. Strong voices, overlapping conversations, everyone talking at once. But over time, that habit can become irritating, especially when there's a generational gap or quieter environments involved. Talking too loudly without realizing it can make others feel uncomfortable. Those nearby might feel overwhelmed or invaded. And constantly interrupting others, even out of excitement, sends the message that what the other person is saying doesn't matter. These behaviors don't come from a bad place. Often they stem from enthusiasm, anxiety, or even hearing difficulties. But still, it's worth paying attention. Too much of anything can drive people away. A simple practice is to observe the pace of the conversation. Let the other person finish their thought. Pause before responding. And if you notice you're speaking too loudly, gently ask, "Am I speaking loud enough for you to hear me clearly?" That question shows self-awareness and earns respect. More than speaking, attentive listening is what creates real connection. And those who know how to listen tend to be remembered and sought out far more often. In the next and final habit, let's talk about something very delicate: neglecting self-care. Not just on the outside, but on the inside too, because that speaks louder than any words. 10. Neglecting self-care. Hygiene, appearance. Many people don't realize it, but the body speaks, even when the mouth stays silent. And one of the strongest signals it sends is when personal care starts to slip away. Wearing the same clothes for days, unbrushed hair, forgotten nails, postponed showers. These little details send a quiet message: "I've stopped caring." And the people around you feel it. The image changes, the smell changes, the atmosphere shifts. But the biggest impact goes beyond what others see. When we stop taking care of ourselves, something inside us starts to fade too. Self-esteem drops, motivation disappears, the mirror becomes a stranger. Of course, there are hard days, physical limitations, pain. But even within those realities, it's possible to show yourself small gestures of care: a long shower, clean, comfortable clothes, brushing your hair, rubbing lotion on your hands. None of this is vanity. It's dignity. It's a daily reminder that you still matter, deeply. And the most beautiful part, when you take care of yourself, others notice. They begin to look at you differently, to come closer, to listen more. Self-care is a way of telling the world, I'm still here, and I deserve respect, affection, and presence. If you've made it this far, congratulations. That already shows something very important. You have the courage to look at yourself honestly and the desire to grow. All of the habits we talked about today don't define who you are. They're just signals that can be transformed with awareness, kindness, and small daily gestures. And do you know what the greatest gift of all this is? Realizing that it's never too late to change. It's never too late to be lighter, to be heard, to be loved. If any of these behaviors showed up in your life, whether in yourself or in someone you know, use that as a starting point, not a reason to feel guilty. Living together can be more beautiful. Relationships can bloom again. It only takes one step, the step of listening, of empathy, and of choosing to grow. Now tell me in the comments, which of these habits did you recognize most in yourself or in your daily life? Write, I want to grow. That alone is already an act of strength. Leave a like if this video spoke to you, and subscribe to the channel. Here we talk about life, truth, and fresh starts. Thank you for listening this far. And remember, the lighter you become, the lighter life feels around you.